I've been hauling freight across the Midwest for over 15 years now. Name's Doug Weller. I'm 43, born and raised in Illinois. And trucking's been in my blood ever since my old man taught me how to shift gears in his rusty Peterbilt when I was barely tall enough to reach the pedals. I've driven through blizzards in Montana, tornado threats in Kansas, and those long, dead stretches of desert in New Mexico where the radio goes silent for hours. But nothing. Weather, not breakdowns, not even the time I had to chase off a guy trying to siphon my diesel, comes close to what happened to me last year on Highway 58 at exactly 3:07 in the morning. I almost didn't talk about it. Hell, I thought maybe I imagined it or dreamed it up from too much caffeine and too many overnights. But the way it still creeps into my mind like a memory that doesn't sit right, it keeps scratching at me. I've only told one person, my dispatcher, Ron, and even he didn't believe me fully. Just gave me this weird look and said, "You were probably just tired, man. Maybe not." It was a Thursday night in late October. I was running solo, hauling reefer cargo frozen meat from Oklahoma up to Indianapolis. Tight deadline. That meant cutting out a sleep break and pulling through the night, which isn't unusual. I'd done that stretch before, but usually I'd hit Highway 58 in the daylight. That night, I was behind schedule, so I hit it at about 2:45 a.m. now. For context, Highway 58 isn't some major interstate. It's one of those long, lonely state highways that snake through empty farmland, thick woods, and broken-down barns. No streetlights, spotty signal. Just you, the road, and whatever the dark lets you see. The kind of place where, even during the day, it feels like you're driving through someone's forgotten backyard. I remember tuning into some local AM station just to have background noise. It was mostly static, with the occasional weather report cutting through. My thermos of black coffee was half empty, and I'd cracked the window a bit to keep the cab cool and help me stay alert. The wind outside had that dry, brittle snap too. It like the air itself was cracked. Anyway. I was about 20 minutes deep into 58 when I noticed it. Nothing dramatic. Not yet, just ... quiet. The road had been empty the whole time, which wasn't surprising. But suddenly, I realized I hadn't passed a single sign, not even those tiny green mile markers. No intersections, no roadside mailboxes or reflectors. Just blacktop and trees. The only light came from my own headlights stretching ahead into the tunnel of dark. I looked at the dash clock. 3:07 a.m. Still had about 3 hours to go before I'd even hit a real truck stop, so I kept rolling. But something about the silence made me flick off the radio. That's when I noticed the faint hum in the air, not from the engine, but like a vibration, deep, low, almost like it wasn't coming from the truck, but around it. I shook it off. Probably just road noise. Maybe the tires. But that was the last moment I felt normal that night. The hum kept bothering me. At first, I thought maybe a wheel bearing was going bad, or something was off in the reefer unit. But it wasn't mechanical. I've heard every sound. A rig can make this was different. More like standing near a power transformer, but fainter. You could almost feel it in your chest more than hear it. I slowed down a little, let off the gas, and rolled down the window further to listen. The night air came in cold and dry, carrying with it the sharp scent of pine and old asphalt. But no insects, no rustling, just stillness. And then I noticed something odd in the mirror. You know those reflective markers on the road? The little dots they embed into the center line that bounce your headlights back at you. They were gone, actually. Not just missing, they looked like they had never been there. The center line was there, freshly painted even. But the road was too perfect. No cracks, no patches, not a single tire mark or oil stain. Just this smooth, black ribbon laid out under my tires like it had been poured only an hour ago. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. I flipped on the CB for company. Dead static. I changed channels. Nothing. No truckers calling out way stations. No chatter from night drivers. Just silence. My hands tightened around the wheel. "All right, Doug," I muttered. "You're fine. You've done worse. It's just a quiet stretch." Then I saw the hitchhiker. I was rounding a gentle bend, and there he was, standing dead, still on the right shoulder, right where the forest meets the road. I almost missed him. He didn't wave or step forward. He just stood there, pale hoodie, jeans, dark cap. His face was in shadow, turned down slightly, not moving. No backpack. No duffel, just standing. I had maybe 2 seconds to look at him as I passed, and those 2 seconds felt off. Like time slowed slightly, not dramatic like in the movies, just enough that I noticed it. I tapped the brakes, thinking maybe something was wrong, maybe he'd been in an accident. But by the time I checked the side mirror, he was gone. No running, no walking, just not there. I stared at the shoulder, nothing, no movement, not even footprints in the gravel. I shook my head hard. You definitely need more sleep, man. I kept driving, maybe another 10, 15 minutes. The road still hadn't changed. No gas stations, no rest stops, not even a road sign. That's when I started noticing the mile markers again, but this time they were counting down. Mile 103, mile 102, mile 101, backwards. I even stopped the truck, got out with my flashlight and checked one. Plain as day, mile 99. No state abbreviation, no county code, just that I stood there for a moment, flashlight in one hand, other hand on the edge of the door. Trees around me were completely still, not a bird, not a breeze, just that faint, almost electric hum, stronger now. It felt like it was pressing in on my ears. Then I noticed something else, in the woods. About 30 feet off the road, there was a shape. A person, maybe, squatting low, watching, not moving. I clicked the flashlight over in that direction, and nothing. No one there. I don't remember getting back in the cab, but I know I did fast. From then on, I started getting a feeling. You know the one, like someone's tailing you. But every time I checked my mirrors, it was just me. I even slowed to 30 mph, half hoping some car would come up behind me. No lights, nothing. And the mile markers, still counting down. 77, 76, 75. And that's when the radio popped on. Loud, it wasn't music. Just a voice, clear as day, repeating the same phrase. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. Over and over. The voice was calm. Male, no emotion. Like someone reading a bedtime story, just repeating. I tried turning the radio off, didn't work. Unplugged it from the dash, still kept playing. I yanked the fuse from the panel under the wheel, and finally it stopped. The moment it went dead, the humming stopped too. For the first time in an hour, everything was completely still, but not for long. Just as I started to relax, thinking maybe that was it, Some weird electrical thing. I noticed headlights, up, ahead, but they were off the road, deep in the woods, parallel to me, moving slowly. At first I thought it was a quad, or maybe a jeep, but it was too tall, and there was no engine sound. Just two pale white lights, floating level with my cab, maybe 50 yards in the forest. They stayed right with me, pacing me. Every time I sped up, they did too. I reached for my phone, dead. Not low battery, just dead. Black screen, no restart, and then the lights disappeared. I leaned forward, scanning the trees, heart pounding, and suddenly, I saw something run across the road. Not a deer, not a coyote. Something on all fours, but bigger than a man. Pale, stretched skin, limbs bending too far in every direction. It moved fast, faster than anything should. It was gone before I could even blink. I swerved slightly but kept the truck straight. That was the moment I realized I was no longer on Highway 58, or at least not the one I knew, because now the road had no lines, no markings at all. Just a long stretch of black pavement under a sky that didn't look quite right, like it was too low, or the stars were in the wrong places. And my GPS, frozen, said I was off-road. At that point, I wasn't scared, I was angry. I hit the brakes, brought the truck to a full stop in the middle of this dead highway, and just sat there, breathing hard, trying to gather myself. And then, in the rearview mirror, I saw someone standing in the middle of the road, just behind my trailer. Same guy, same hoodie, still not moving, still no face I could make out, and somehow he was closer than he'd been before. I didn't move, my hands were clamped to the wheel, eyes fixed on that mirror. I was hoping, praying, I'd blink and he'd be gone again, like before. But he wasn't. He was still there, standing right in the middle of the highway, maybe 30 feet behind my trailer, perfectly still like a damn statue. Same hoodie, same cap. Still couldn't see the face, just this inky black where it should have been, like the headlights refused to land on it. And here's the part that really chilled me. There was no shadow, not even a faint one. The guy was standing under two bright brake lights and the truck's rear floodlamp, and he didn't cast a single damn shadow. I don't know what got into me, but I threw the truck into gear, peeled off fast, too fast. For a fully loaded rig, tires screaming, engine growling like it was angry. I didn't care if I busted a tire or blew a belt. I just needed distance. As the truck gained speed, I glanced back. He wasn't there, no movement. Just empty blacktop trailing into the woods behind me. But my gut told me he hadn't stayed behind. I kept one hand on the wheel and the other hovering near the CB again, though I knew it wouldn't work. The fuse was still out. But habits die hard. I drove for another 5 minutes. No turns, no intersections, nothing but pitch black forest pressing in close on both sides. And that's when I started to notice something really strange. The forest was ... repeating. It hit me when I passed the same broken tree on the right. At first, I told myself it was coincidence, but then I saw a plastic bag snagged on a limb, fluttering the same exact way it had 10 minutes ago. Then a smashed up road. Sin bent at the same angle. I was looping. I killed the gas and let the truck coast. My pulse was hammering in my ears. There was no GPS, no signal, no traffic, no sound. I couldn't even tell if I was heading north, south, or back into hell. Just me, the woods, and whatever was watching, because something was I felt it. You ever Feel your body react before your mind does. Like your spine tenses, hairs on your arms stand up, and your mouth goes dry all at once. That's what was happening. Every damn instinct I had was screaming, "You're not alone." I slowed the truck to a crawl. My headlights swung across the trees, and there they were again. Eyes, dozens of them, low to the ground, barely visible in the underbrush. Wide, human-like, but too reflective. Some blinked, some didn't, and they were all looking at me. I hit. The high beams did nothing, just trees. I couldn't tell if they ducked or disappeared, but they were gone. Like they knew I was trying to see. That's when I heard it, thump, on the roof. I froze. Another thump, heavier this time, right over the sleeper cab. Something had landed or crawled up there. I didn't want to look, but instinct made me crack the side window just an inch and lean out, craning my neck to see up, scratch, a slow dragging sound above me, like nails across metal, deliberate, taunting, and then silence. Not the kind that calms you, the kind that waits. I eased the truck forward again, heart pounding, trying to stay calm. Maybe it was an animal, a bird, something natural. Then the sleeper cab door behind me rattled. Click. It jiggled again. That door only opens from inside. My skin went cold. I didn't turn around, couldn't. I just whispered to myself, "No one's back there." But the handle turned again. Click. 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 I flipped the dome light on. Still didn't look back. I just needed to believe it wasn't happening. But then I heard breathing. Close. Inside. Like someone crouched just behind the curtain between the seats and the sleeper. Ragged, wet breathing, like they were trying to stay quiet and couldn't. And that's when the curtain moved. Not much, just a twitch. I slammed the brakes and jumped out of the cab, landed hard on the gravel, knees nearly buckling. I backed away from the truck, flashlight in hand, aiming it at the cab door. It was wide open, but no one came out. I stood there, shaking for maybe a full minute, waiting for something to appear in that doorway. Nothing did. Eventually, I crept back in, one hand on the handle, heart ready to explode. The cab was empty, sleeper too. I threw the curtain aside, nothing, but the air smelled. Wrong, damp, metallic, like rain and rust mixed with old meat. I slammed the door, locked it, and punched the gas. That's when I saw something in the passenger seat. It was a photo, just sitting there on the seat like it had always been there. A grainy Polaroid. Looked old. In it was a semi-white cab. Red trailer, parked on a black road that looked exactly like the one I was on. In front of the truck stood a man, wearing a hoodie cap pulled low, and beneath it, in faded pen, "Mile 0, you finally made it." I didn't understand what I was looking at. That photo shouldn't have been there. I didn't own a Polaroid camera, and I sure as hell hadn't picked anyone up. It was cold to the touch, like it had been sitting in a freezer, and the edges were frayed, like it had been handled too many times. But it was the truck that really got me. It wasn't just a truck. It was my truck, same model, same faded logo on the door, same dent on the fender, and the highway in the background, no lights, no lines, matched the road I was currently crawling along. Then there was the guy, same hoodie, same cap, standing about 10 feet in front of the rig, not facing the camera, turned sideways, just enough to make out the bottom half of his face. His mouth was open, smiling, wide, too wide, I dropped the photo like it burned me. Asterisk, like something new I wouldn't leave. Not until I reached mile 0. I looked out the window. My headlights caught a green mile marker coming up fast. Mile 1. I slammed the brakes so hard, everything in the cab jolted forward. I reached for the air horn, out of instinct, don't even know why, and laid on it, blasting the silence with that deafening roar. But the woods didn't respond. The sound just seemed to vanish into the black dot then. The road changed. It didn't curve, didn't climb, just changed. The pavement beneath my wheels shifted tone, darker, older. The trees vanished, replaced by something else. No longer forest, but these skeletal, warped wooden structures on either side of the road, like the ruins of old houses half submerged in shadow. Their windows were just holes, blacker than black, and I could feel them watching. I checked. The dash clock, 3:07 a.m. Same as before. No time had passed, and up ahead I saw it. A large white sign, crooked, bent, like it had been hit by something heavy. Black letters scrawled across it. Mile 0. I should have turned around. I tried. I cranked the wheel, but the tires fought me. The truck groaned like it was pushing through water. It didn't move off the road, just slowed. Tires whining against invisible resistance. Then the lights ahead flickered on. One by one, these old, yellowed floodlights on rusted poles clicked to life, casting the highway in a sick, buzzing glow, and in the middle of the road, there he was again, the man, same hoodie, standing perfectly still, except now he was closer, his head tilted upward, and this time I saw his face. It was wrong, no eyes. Just smooth, pale skin stretched across where they should have been. His mouth was open, wide enough to split the skin. At the corners, his teeth were too many rows, like a shark. And he was still smiling, still. UNMOV. I slammed the horn. Nothing. I revved the engine. No response. And then he took a step forward. 1.2. I floored it. The engine roared to life, and the whole cab shuddered as the wheels spun, gripping the pavement. The headlights lit him up, and he didn't flinch. I thought I'd hit him. Toast. But just as the truck reached him, he vanished. Not jumped, not dodged, just blinked out. The moment I passed where he'd stood, everything dropped. The road was gone. The truck plunged downward, not physically, but the feeling of it, like going over a steep hill at 90 miles per hour, except there was no slope. The world turned black. No stars, no dash lights, just the sensation of falling while still, sitting in the seat, hands on the wheel. I couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the cab, and then I hit the brakes without even meaning to. The truck jolted violently, tires skidded, and everything snapped back. I was parked just sitting in the middle of a 2-lane road. Normal. Again, morning light was starting to rise behind the tree line, birds chirping, a distant car horn somewhere far off. I checked the dash. 6:14 a.m. Almost 3 hours had passed. My phone buzzed suddenly. Signal restored. Messages from Ron, asking if I was okay, saying dispatch lost track of me. GPS had gone dark just past mile marker 103 on Highway 58. Except when I looked around, there was no Highway 58 sign, no marker, no sign of the crooked mile 0 post, and no sign of him. I stayed parked on that empty road for a long time. Too long. The sun had crept far enough above the trees that a soft orange glow was spilling across the shoulder, throwing long shadows from the hood of the truck, but nothing about the daylight made me feel any safer. It just felt ... hollow, like I was back in the world, but not fully a part of it. I checked the side mirrors for what had to be the 100th time. No hoodie guy, no pale figures in the woods, just a long, quiet stretch of highway behind me that looked like it could have belonged to any forgotten back road in America. Except I knew better. I looked down at my hands, still clamped tight around the steering wheel, my knuckles bone white. I had to pry them off. The first thing I noticed was that the air inside the cab felt heavier than before. Not hot, just ... thick, like it had soaked up everything that had happened. My breath fogged slightly on the inside of the window, even though it wasn't cold. I turned the key and restarted the truck. Engine fired up smooth, gauges all normal, as if the truck hadn't just been through some impossible detour into a place that logic couldn't touch. And then I noticed the smell, not strong, not even immediately unpleasant, but unmistakable. Burnt plastic, ozone, and something under it. Just faintly the metallic temps of blood. I rolled the window down and let the breeze take it away. I didn't want to check the sleeper. I did, eventually, just a quick sweep, with a flashlight, and there was nothing there. No signs of someone being in the cab. No prints. No photo, but that smell lingered. I pulled back onto the road and drove straight until I hit a familiar truck stop a few hours later. It was full daylight by the time I got there. Birds chirping, diesel pumps humming, guys in safety vests chatting while they stretched their legs. Completely normal. Like the last 5 hours of my life had been a glitch in the matrix no one else was aware of. I washed my face in the bathroom, splashed cold water until I couldn't feel anything, then stared at myself in the mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. Not just the dark circles under my eyes or the hollow expression. It was something deeper. Like the reflection wasn't keeping up with me, just a beat behind. You ever get that feeling? That your own face doesn't recognize you? I walked out fast and sat in the cab with the windows down for air. I wanted to call someone, anyone, my brother, my ex, just hear a normal voice. But I didn't know how to even start that conversation. Hey, remember that delivery I had on 58? Yeah, turns out I drove into a place where time doesn't move, shadows don't act right, and I saw a guy with no eyes and too many teeth smile at me under a sky that didn't belong to this world. No thanks. Eventually, I called Ron, my dispatcher, just said I'd had weird static and truck trouble. No big deal. He sounded distracted. Yeah. He said, we figured something was off. Your GPS pinged you outside, only. Then you vanished for almost 3 hours. No signal. We thought maybe you hit a ditch or some weird cell dead zone. I paused. You ever had another driver go dark on that stretch? Quiet. Too long. Then he sighed. Yeah, one guy. Back in 2009. Said some spooky crap about seeing people in the trees. Took a medical leave. Never came back. His wife said he started sleepwalking. Kept drawing mile markers with a Sharpie on the walls of their garage. Like a countdown. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Ron lowered his voice. You still on 58? I think so, I said, glancing at the exit sign. But the more I looked at it, the more the numbers didn't make sense. They weren't wrong, they just weren't there. The sign was blank, just a rusted green board with peeling paint, where the exit number should have been. I pulled over again. My phone had signal now, full bars LTE.I, Opened maps and typed in the exact coordinates where I'd stopped earlier that night. No results. The map just ... blurred. No terrain data. No satellite image. Like that one tiny sliver of road had been scrubbed clean, or didn't exist. And that's when I opened my wallet to grab some cash for a vending machine. And I froze, because tucked behind my license was that same goddamn photo. Polaroid, same truck, same hooded figure, but now there was a second person, standing beside the figure, smaller, wearing my jacket, my jeans, standing at the driver's side door, back turned to the camera. It was me. I dropped the wallet, stared at the photo like it might move or vanish. It didn't. I took it out with shaking hands, flipped it over. No message this time, just a smudge. A faint fingerprint in something dark and red that hadn't been there before. I burned it that night. In a fire pit outside the motel I stopped at, watched it curl and blacken and disappear into ash. But the thing is, sometimes I still hear the hum, only at night, usually around 3:07 a.m. if I'm being honest. And sometimes, just barely, I see movement. In my side mirror. Not a person, not always. Sometimes it's a reflection that's delayed, just a little behind. Like a memory of the road I was on still wants to catch up, and twice, not once. Twice I've seen mile markers counting down instead of up. Never more than one, just enough to make me slam the brakes and double check. They're always gone when I go back. But I know they were there. Some highways take you places, some take something from you, and a few take you somewhere that remembers you, even when you try to forget it.